Hi there. I wasn't ready. Mark, where's my partner? Ah,
Right
it,
here, man. I'm right here, man. I'm right here,
I need my son.
man.
Y'all, if you are tuning in, you have just tuned into Where is the Love? I am one of your hosts. I'm Stephanie Hawkenhall.
And I am Adisa Karanja Malik, also formerly known as Gene Williams. You know what I mean?
So we are here today because we love you.
Yeah, we have a story
So
to tell you.
what'd you say?
I said, we have a story to tell you.
That's right. So listen, y'all, we have been talking about, sorry, I'm kind of halfway ready. We have been talking about um,
Shadow work.
shadow work. And we ended on our last show. We've taken some time off, but we ended on our last show talking about beginning to talk about inner child work. And so we're going to be talking about that today. So you should be tuned in. Either you should be watching us on, first of all, Roku or Amazon Fire on TV right now while we're doing the show only. Um, and except for the replays that the Pod TV show plays. So if you're watching us on Roku or Amazon Fire, you should search POD TV, Pod TV. Sorry. But when you search on those channels, you should search um, POD TV underscore or space live, LIVE, space, LIVE. And you can watch us on TV. Otherwise, you should be watching us on our YouTube channels, Love Misunderstood Institute or Premier Fitness 0210 or LinkedIn. I have my LinkedIn account attached to this, so you can watch us on LinkedIn. So, Gene, you want to add something?
So many ways you can watch it, people. No. So, this actually the segue from shadow work to inner child work is so important because inner child work is absolutely a part of shadow work and vice versa. You know, um, a lot of the shadows that we have, a lot of the things that we hide from ourselves, started from when we were young. You know, and we're taught that this is how to be, and we just carried on those mindsets, those perspectives, because we didn't really know how to, uh, you know, dump those things out.
Didn't
So
know
now,
how to regulate those emotions we were having.
there we go. What you said, what you had said.
You want to add anything else?
Nope, let's dive in. Slash.
All right, so I'll let you start since I rambled on.
All right. So defining inner child work. Inner child work is an approach to recognizing and healing childhood trauma. It recognizes that our behaviors as an adult stem from our childhood experiences. Inner child work focuses on addressing our unmet needs by reparenting ourselves. This kind of self discovery helps us understand our behaviors, triggers, wants, and needs. When we begin inner child work, healing work, we tap into a part of ourselves that is vulnerable and impressionable. We're able to be both the grown up and the child, providing unconditional self love, self compassion, and self support. So, what does healing your inner child mean? So, say you're 14 and the dance at school is coming up. You're super excited to go out with your crush, but they haven't asked you yet. So, you get your game face on, put on your best outfit, and plan to ask them out. But after all that, you find out that someone else beat you to it. That's it, you say to yourself. I never get what I want, so there's no point in trying. And this situation is the stuff of teen movies and young adult books. They're made for a reason. It's an emotional roller coaster, and it's human nature to want to protect yourself from that kind of pain. But what happens when you want to get into grad school or a apply for a promotion, or ask for an extension on your taxes.
So I want you to pause
That's what the comments.
because if you think about it, some of the examples that Jean just gave, those things are very hurtful when you experience those things because we have expectations of certain things to happen. And then, so when we get the courage to ask whatever it is, to ask for that date or to ask for something that we really want, and we have hopes to get it, and we're rejected, then that pulls us back and makes us and makes us start feeling like we're going to get rejected. I can't ask that because I don't want to get rejected,
Right.
or I don't want to ask that because I don't want to get rejected. I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like, how it felt. So I'm scared to even try anymore. So then you start living with the fear of rejection, which is something many of us do. I did that, and I still. I mean, hey, this is life. We still gonna get rejected. But when we feel that as a kid, and we don't know how to deal with that emotion, how to regulate it, then we continue that cycle
Right.
throughout life, and we pull back from things that we really want and don't want to express ourselves. And so that's something that we have to eventually dig ourselves out of if we're going to heal. And so that's what part of inner child work is. Realizing that pain that was caused back then. You
Right.
know, what is that first thing that came back to remind you of something? That's a trigger. So now that we have that trigger, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to continue to allow this pain, or are we going to buckle down and start dealing with it? Why did I feel that? And Jean gone, because I know you got some stuff. So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, just like anything else, you recognize it, and you over time, because healing, again, as we said a million times, healing is not a one-off thing. It's a constant process. You know,
Yes.
you can, each time you address the trigger, you take some of the power off of it. You take some of the sting, and that's the goal, just to constantly take the sting off of it till it gets to the point where it's like you're aware of it. You always want to be aware, but you don't want it to continue to stifle your growth and your healing and your forward motion. So, you know, again, working on it constantly, being consistent.
Yeah.
Writing out your thoughts, writing out your feelings, finding a community of people that you can talk to and express yourself to, because
Yeah.
anything that's not expressed, creates more of itself. You know, by you by being ignored. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Mark had a few comments here. One is maybe that's why I saw the lady at the bus terminal have a temper tantrum. And then he said, yes, even adults have temper tantrums, and you are absolutely right. And that's because we haven't been dealing with our stuff.
Right.
Stuff.
Still.
Uh, so then he also said, thought she was going to throw a rock or pop someone upside the head. Some people do that when they put hands on other people when they don't know how to deal with their emotions, how
Right.
to regulate their emotions. And that's a horrible thing because that's abuse,
Right.
as well as bullying and some other things. And
Right.
so when things like that are happening, people really need to dig deep and find out, why am I doing this? Why am I? Because that's just straight acting a fool.
Right.
I can't be nice about it. Ain't nothing nice about that.
Right.
So, go ahead, and
But
then I'll
even
read his other two comments.
yeah, but even going to the point, like, and it's good to know, because some people, you hear some people who make the claim that they're aware of why they do X, Y, Z, but then they make that the why, the excuse as to why they continue. So, the next step after acknowledgement is doing things to uncover, you know, or basically relearn, reteach yourself.
Yeah,
Go back to the start, dig up that foundation that was toxic, and put some more seeds down there after you cleanse that earth, because it's been there 4 minutes. Now you got to clean the soil that you're putting your next season to. So
Yeah.
clean it with affirmations. Hey, I'm not that. So on and so forth. And you go back and you plant those seeds of positivity, and you grow another version of yourself. But you got to go back to the source, and you
Yeah.
can't just acknowledge it and then keep doing the same things.
Right. Because you keep doing this. Go ahead with it.
Keep doing the same, you get the same results.
Yes.
There you go.
And that's
Insanity.
yeah, insanity. So Mark also said, also saw a guy get upside. I also saw a guy get upset at a guy because he was spitting on him as he was talking. Yeah, that's nasty. But I mean, I know it was because he was talking, not that he was, like they say, hocking a loogie. But and then he also said heat definitely has the bullies coming out in force. Yeah, it's so hot they don't know how to handle the heat. So the heat is their excuse
Mm-hmm.
for cutting up, acting a fool, just straight acting a fool. So you want to add something else, Gene, before we move on to the next part?
Good.
Okay. So the next part is when you begin to work, when you begin working to heal your inner child, you sort of go back in time, emotionally and mentally, to that traumatic event. You can understand how your inner child feels from the perspective of an adult. With that, your adult self can start to untangle the coping mechanisms your 14 or 4-year old self came up with to protect you from further trauma. You want to add something?
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, we said this earlier, but like how we come up with boundaries, even as children. We put up boundaries. When we experience trauma. So I experienced that when I did this. So I'm not gonna do that no more. You know, and I mean that's the way we program our lives. Like, and it goes both ways. It could be good or bad. You're in the kitchen, and your mom's cooking or your dad is cooking, and you see the skillet on the oven. And you go up there and touch it, and you burn your hands. It's like, oh, well, okay, I didn't like that. I'm not gonna do that no more. You
Yeah,
know, that's good trauma. You learn from your mistakes, but often like emotional trauma or mental trauma doesn't. It jars you, but it's a little less subtle, I guess, than physical pain.
yeah,
And sometimes trauma is tied up in physical and emotional, mental, and all of that type of stuff. Trauma is leveled, man, and layered.
yeah.
But
And all of the layers has to be dealt with. So Mark made a few comments. How far back should you go? Um, Wonder if you can go back to when you were an infant. I was living in Turkey then and have no memories of that. And then he also said, before we answer the question or respond to it, he said, Dad was in the Air Force, so probably like 5 or 6 months when I moved there. Came back when I was like 3. So I'm going to start off answering, and Gene, you can piggyback off of it. So, how far back should you go back? Go, go back to the first memory. So you'll have memories of things, and you'll keep having memories of things. Go back to that uh, youngest memory. So, like you might have a memory today of something that happened when you were 12 years old. Deal with that memory. How did that feel? What were you thinking? Uh, How was your response to it? Have you experienced anything like that since? If you have, how did you deal with it? Um, and then you'll as you keep having memories, just keep addressing them, and not just addressing them, but keep dealing with them. How is that now? I was 3 then, and that happened. And between 3 and the age of 50, as that what things happened and how did I respond to them, and was it a result of that? So go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, yeah, just exactly what you said. I mean, so I think the first question was how far should you go back? I
Yeah.
mean, as far as you need to,
Yep.
uh, as far as you need to. Like you said, you can experience something at 3 years old that causes you to create a hard wall in yourself that affects you till your last breath. Um, and they all have their origins. All of those things, all of those feelings have their origin. They have that foundation in your life. Man, some people even talk about like wounds in the as a fetus. Being in the womb of a mother who's being abused, or of a mother who's a drug addict. Like kids talk about stuff like that. So as far as you need to go back to render to get some healing going in your life. Man.
You said something while you were talking, and I'm a go to Mark's remark or comment. He said, "Remember." He remembered when he was 11 and moved to a new town. Probably earliest memory was like around 5 or 6, and now he's in his 60s. So, Mark, what and anybody that's listening, whatever that memory was, like Jean gave the example of burning yourself on the stove. Um, so, what I'll add to that is maybe your parents told you not to do that, and you did it anyway. You just kept looking at that fire. Maybe you know, you just kept looking at it. Maybe it's a gas stove, it was fire. Maybe it wasn't, it's an electric stove, but you kept looking at that eye and it turned a real pretty orange. And so you was like, oh, this was me with my grandma's stove. This is just an example. She had an electric stove and it had a little hole where you could see the fire and it was between the two eyes. And me, she didn't say don't touch it, but I was old enough to know not to touch it. But it was so pretty, the orange fire, and I touched it, and then I had this ring around my finger. But I yelled, when it happened. And this is a physical pain, but I yelled when it happened. And then she came in there and said, "What happened?" And then I told her, and she said, "Why did you do that? Why did you touch that?" And I said, "I don't know, but that's a physical pain." So dealing with emotional pain, whatever it is that caused us to feel like I talked about being rejected a while ago, whatever that thing was, the first thing that I felt rejected about. Maybe so here's an example. Our nonprofit organization is Love Misunderstood Institute. The name of this TV show is Where is the Love? The reason why, and I don't know how many of you have heard this, but the reason why love, 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 love is because of generations of hatred on both sides of our bloodline. And I'm determined, and Gene is determined with me to create a legacy of love and to change the trajectory of things that happen. So, with the love, so I gave you that example. So, going back to childhood for me, giving you an example for me, I didn't experience hearing "I love you," as a child, and I don't blame my mom for it. She didn't hear it growing up, so she didn't know how to give it. Well, I desired it so much that this is part of my story. I desired it so much that I um, got into wrong relationships. So as a teenager, when I would hear "I love you," then I would, oh, they love me. I finally get to hear what I wanted to hear. And so whatever treatment came with it, I took it. Um, and I ended up in some wrong relationships. I ended up in, a few abusive relationships. But the only reason why I'm sharing this with you is to tell you that that was rejection for me because I wanted to hear "I love you" and I didn't hear it. So I'll just say I flooded my kids with love, constantly telling them I love them and constantly holding them. Uh, because I didn't want them to experience what I experienced. So be, the reason why, like I said, I'm sharing that is because now you see everything is love, love, love. Well, I still don't feel that love, love, love that I want to feel, because we live in a world of people that have no idea how to love, don't know how to love themselves, so they can't give you what they don't have, right? And so because people can't give you what they don't have, you we still suffer. So you have to learn first.
Yep.
Well, you have to learn before you love somebody else. You have to learn how to love yourself. So if you don't know how to do that, then, like I said, you can't give it. So that started, you know, some things in my life for me, um, which is, like I said, why you see love, love, love. Go ahead, Gene, because I'm kind of rambling at this point.
No, what you said actually turned into like a funk song in my head. Before you love somebody else, you gotta learn to love yourself. Hey, before you love somebody else, you gotta learn to love. Hey.
um yeah, so that was rejection, and that's some of the inner child work that I have been having to go back and do, like I said, I don't blame my mom. She didn't get it, and she didn't know how to change the trajectory. She was only 16 when she had me, so she was still a kid herself. So I chose to change things because of the hurt and the pain and the rejection, that I experienced. So you too got to choose whoever you are listening, you have to choose too. This is what I experienced. Do I want to stay here? If you don't want to stay there, do the work. Whether it's as a child, what you experienced as a child, or what you experienced as an adult. When you realize, you start putting those, Gene said a little while ago, those borders up, those walls up in certain areas of your life. Why? Desire to understand why, desire to go back to that place and deal with that. So there will, when you do that, there'll become a point in your life where you'll think about those hurtful times, but you won't feel that same pain because you dealt with it and you're healed in that area. It might still hurt, but nothing like it hurt before you dealt with it. Believe it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you go ahead.
I was gonna say the first step to healing is self knowledge, understanding yourself and why you do what you do. Because a lot of who we are again is based off of who we're taught to be growing up. By either upbringing and or environment and or the culture that we live in, society that we live
Yep.
in. You got television programming that, what did I just say? Television programming. So
Yep.
it programs the mind. It's
Yep.
intended to. So we got all of these different factors um, that we're dealing with, and it's just best to again go back to that childhood aspect of it all, and deal with and be aware of and shine light on your foundations and those shadows. Going back to the shadow work, which again, inner child work and shadow work are virtually the same thing.
Yeah.
Have very, very many of the same principles. Um, but man, this stuff is every day. It's a constant work. It's not, you get no days off, no days
Yeah.
off on this one.
Right. And how do you avoid depression? By dealing with it. Because if you don't deal with those things will definitely have you depressed, keep you in a state of depression, state of sickness. Because if you are not letting go, if you're not releasing, that's being stored on the inside of you, which creates all kind of stuff: cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, so many things in your body that you don't have to have if you deal with those things.
Right. I want to
Go
actually
ahead.
add something to what you just said about depression. Like depression is a normal thing. It's okay to feel depressed. You don't want to be depressed. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's a difference between saying I feel depressed because feelings change.
Yeah.
Saying I am you're putting that into creation. I am depressed. That means you're creating within yourself a constant state of depression. So when you have to watch our words, you know, feeling depression is okay. It's passing. It's transient. Like you tell me all the time, trouble don't last always.
Right.
This too shall pass.
Yep.
You're going through this right now, but it's gonna take you somewhere. And so in those times of the storm, pay attention to the storm. What is it? Find that seed at the bottom of it all that created this storm. You know, and deal with it little by little. Uncover, unpack it, so you can get to the root of that thing and be like, you know what? You can make it at that time decision. Do I want to continue this, or do I
Yep.
want to, dig this up, kill it, and plant something in this place that's better for me? So you always have the power, and that's the beautiful thing about this healing journey. You always have the power. Power is always in your hands.
And if you don't want to dig it up right now, then believe you're going to come back around to it again, and you're going to experience many things from that point where it came to mind and you decided I'll deal with it later. Between that time and the time that it resurfaced, you're going to have dealt with a whole bunch of other stuff because you didn't really deal with it when it came up the first time. Things come up for a reason. I want to Mark had a couple comments. You want to add something first?
No, you go ahead.
So Mark said, "Remember when a cat was mauled?" Mark, you a mess. He said, "Remember when a cat pet was mauled by a neighboring dog and me crying in his brother's fur?" Oh, that's sad. And then he said, "Also remember when brother pulled an aquarium on his face and also bumped his head on cinder block. Traumatic.
Hey, yeah, right,
Those are traumatic things.
right.
Also, remember a fist fight in school. I gave him a black eye, so I won physically, but I was crying the whole fight. So he won emotionally. Still don't know how my fist hit his eye. Um, I also remember
Trauma.
some new, huh?
Not just say, but that's trauma though. That's
Yeah, it is
trauma.
trauma. All of that's trauma. Uh, I also remember some new friends trying to get me to engage intimately while they were waiting outside, and it was their cousin. Talk about all kinds of crazy layers.
Right.
And then he said two more things, and then I'm gonna come back to that. I think we have a new hit from Adisa. That was when you were singing a while ago. And then he said words have meaning, reason they call it network programming, and even TikTok, which implies explosion. So, so the comment, part of the comment I wanted to make is I am a trauma healing facilitator. Um, so I help people deal with trauma as well. It's like a trauma healing coach. But Mark, those things that you dealt with or that you put here that you mentioned, have you dealt with those things? If you haven't dealt with those things, now it's time to face them. How were you feeling, and um, how does it make you feel now? How did you feel when it happened? How do you feel now? Are you still at the same level of trauma in those areas? And then, so one thing that we always say that I want to share with you is to journal. Everybody don't like to journal, but I was doing a video a few weeks back, and I before I did the video, I was talking about. So what I did is I journaled something in 2007, I believe, January 2007. And so, like my first book that I wrote, the way that I wrote the book, um, I would pray before I would write. And so I would write what I hear in that book. I thought that that was the first time I had been doing that. But when I look back, and that was 2020 when I wrote that book. But I just looked back a few weeks ago because I asked the same question that I was hurting a few weeks back about something. And so I wrote it down, and then all of a sudden I come up on this piece of paper where I've written the same thing in January 2007, and the answer was right there.
Right.
So, saying that to say, when you journal, write dates, because it'll come back to you at the time that you need to hear it again. So, actually, I didn't write it down a couple weeks ago, but I said it, and I didn't take the time to write. But then it wasn't long. I mean, like within a few minutes, that actual answer
Mm-hmm.
came right back to me from '07.
Right.
That's almost 20 years ago.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's how valuable journaling is,
Mm-hmm.
Mark, and everybody that's listening.
Right.
So that's why one of the reasons why I press journaling and putting dates is so valuable.
Right. Yeah. And also, and if you don't, like you said, if you don't want to write it down, like we talked about a few shows ago, video recording,
Yeah.
or voice recording. You could just do the same thing, give the date and time, and then just express yourself freely and openly, and record it. And, put a date on it, and then archive it somewhere
Yeah.
all together, so you can go back to and just kind of listen to your voice and all of the inflections and what you were saying and how you were feeling and the progress that you made over time.
Yeah. So Mark just made a couple other comments. Yes, you have. Yes, he has. Yes, I have had in-depth conversations about most of those. Most have dealt with most. Totally lost touch with those who were trying to get me in the intimacy conversation. Heard someone say, sometimes it is good to write a letter to someone that will never read it. That's good too.
Yeah.
You can always, after you write it, you can always rip it up. You can always burn it. So,
Water.
so that gets rid of it too. Huh?
You put it in water.
Yeah, if it's invisible paper, it'll just dissolve.
Right.
So, and if it's not invisible paper, then it's going to mess up the writing.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So it won't be so clear to somebody who might find it and read it.
Right.
So go ahead, Jean. This
Uh,
is,
so the next part.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. All right. So benefits of inner child work. The foundational benefit of inner child work and healing your inner child is developing self awareness. So, in more than 1 million coaching sessions with Better Up, I don't know what that is, some kind of company, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, they found that the skills of mental fitness develop in a certain order. The first skill that's developed is introspection, and it lays the foundation for all other kinds of personal and professional growth. Now, as you practice mindfulness and develop greater self awareness, some of the other benefits of inner child work include understanding how past trauma affects your present behavior, developing healthy coping mechanisms for managing emotions and trauma, reconnecting to passions, dreams, and talents you may have put aside. You may feel safe, empowered, and in control of your life rather than wounded. Improved emotional regulation, increased self esteem, self compassion, and compassion for others.
So I want to make a comment before you go on. So Better Up is so I do research on different subjects that we do, and so Better Up is just one of those companies that I got this particular information from.
Gotcha.
Um, Mark said, okay, go ahead. I read those. You want to make a comment to anything you just said?
Mm, yeah, so I mean, I said it before. It would just be me being redundant. But I guess it's important to say it again. The most important knowledge that you can have, first and foremost, in the path. My goodness, I didn't put like four words together into one. Foremost. Sound like Elmer Fudd for a second there. Anyway, so uh, is being aware of yourself uh, in healing, in the healing process, being aware of your feelings, why things come up, you know, what is it? Because a lot of the things that we experience, again, what we call triggers, is a situation that reminds us of something that happened in our past. It could be something totally different, but whatever it is in that moment reminds us of that thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just important to understand where did that come from, and being able to address it in that moment, like kind of like going to your inner child in that moment and being like, hey, it's okay. As your current self speaking to your inner child, hey, everything is okay. This is not that situation, or however you go about it. But just that self awareness piece is a major thing. Um, Something that we spoke about in the event that we did for the men's. It was called Man Up Men's Health and Resources event or something along those lines. But we spoke about like people not having the vocabulary to express themselves about certain things they're going through. It's like they feel something, but if you're not able to express that in a way that is understood, it's frustrating, and that would compound, a person acting out. It's like I don't know how to tell you what I'm going through. You ever been there? Like you have something going on within you, and you
Yeah.
want to get it out, but you don't know
Yeah.
how to get it out. You don't know
Yeah.
what words.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like that. So self awareness and just like studying yourself, studying, things that bring self awareness. Like again, inner child work, shadow work, just filling yourself up with that information so that you can identify what you're feeling and what you're going
Yeah.
through and why and where and because smells, smells. Certain smells will remind you of somebody.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I smell coffee and think of Nana, or hear someone open a bottle or see a Pepsi bottle and be like, man, you know what I mean? Or smell a
Yeah.
cigarette, you know? So,
Yeah. I think about her most when I smell a cigarette. I'd be like, oh, I can't stand them things. Dang it, mama. Um,
yeah,
so I want to say that although we're talking about inner child work, we're just addressing that. We've already addressed shadow work, and so we've already addressed it as an adult. So, and I'm saying this to say that when you experience trauma and rejection and that negative emotion as an adult, then deal with it. So even if it was 5 years ago and you think about it and it was painful or traumatic or caused you to become a certain person that you didn't want to be, or that's outside of yourself, deal with that. So it's not just about kids and shadow work as a kid and inner child work as a kid. It's just that's why Jean said in the beginning, it's every day. It's I don't remember your exact words, but we don't outgrow uh healing,
right,
needing the need of healing. We don't outgrow that.
right,
I mean, until we stop breathing.
right,
So as long as we are living, things are always going to happen to us or be said to us that is going to be hurtful. And that's why I was talking about in the beginning about, and I didn't say these words quite like this, but we live in a wicked world with wicked people, with wicked thoughts, wicked actions, and it's more about the actions. When you carry out something and you say things, verbally, to people that's hurtful. Uh, so we're gonna constantly need healing because somebody's gonna constantly say some things or do some things to hurt you because that's just the world that we live in. But how are you dealing with it? That's what we're talking about. We're just talking about it as a child, those memories that come back as a child. So if you've already heard, if you're hearing this now and you didn't hear what we talked about as an adult, go back. That's what I'm doing this for. Go back. Go back to those videos and listen
Right.
to those videos because we definitely addressed it.
I did want to say that I mean, I agree with what you said to a certain point, and I also feel like all of us are hurt people, you know, uh, and a lot of us, again, like I just said a few minutes ago, don't have the vocabulary, the framework, the muscle memory or the ability or the knowledge or resources to go back and understand that I've been through something, and I don't by addressing it, I heal myself so I don't have to bleed on other people. Like even we talked in the past about narcissistic people. Even narcissists, you know, are a wounded child in there somewhere. I ain't saying let them do it, but I'm just saying we all got that that the capacity to allow our wounds to turn us toxic,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of people do, unfortunately, because we don't do what you and I are doing, and what others who do what we do are doing. They don't take the time to study themselves and then get the other tools to help them get to a point of healing where they
Yeah.
don't bleed on other people, their toxicity and their anger and their self-loathing and misery. Misery sure do love company, baby. Misery sure do love company.
Right. And for those, I mean, we didn't always have the courage that we have now. We didn't always have the boldness that we have now. Um, we didn't have the courage to speak up or the boldness to speak up and deal with things. So I'm not putting anybody down. Um, because you got to get there. Certain things happen in life, and then there comes to a point where you like, now hold up, wait a minute, and you are able to create boundaries. We weren't always able to do that. So, like I said, I'm not putting anybody down that don't know how to, because we were that way for many, many years before we learned. So, keep going, keep growing. Whoever you are that might be listening, don't give up. And don't think I'm putting you down because I arrived. That's a lie. Ain't none of what I just said true. I have not arrived.
Right.
Um, I'm still a work in progress until I stop breathing. So
Hey,
I
yeah.
just had to say that. Don't think I'm putting you down or like I'm better than you. Or Mark said we're all a work in progress. Yes, we are. Um, so just know that I'm not putting you down um, because of where you are. You'll get there if you really desire to. So
Yep.
I just wanted to add that.
Agreed, player. Agreed. Agreed. Go ahead, pop your collar one time on pop.
You so doggone silly.
Sure.
So are we're at what causes a wound? Okay. So what causes a wounded inner child? Jean, go ahead and
All right. So there are many different situations that can cause a wounded inner child. Think back to when you were younger. Some hurts, like a toy you wanted but you didn't get, were relatively small. Some may be the result of physical abuse or emotional neglect. It's impossible to list all the circumstances your younger self may have internalized. However, it's likely that if you do have childhood trauma, the effects are evident in your life today. Here are some signs that your inner child needs healing. All right, so constant frustration or irritation, big reactions to unmet needs, childish outbursts like throwing tantrums or saying things you don't mean, mm, complaining that no one understands you or you don't feel heard. If that's all the time, then yes, that's a ploy. Difficulty explaining your feelings or why you're upset. Alexithymia, low self-esteem, a particularly harsh inner critic, immaturity, patterns of self-sabotage, fear of abandonment or commitment issues, challenges with setting boundaries or expressing your needs. If you recognize any of these patterns in yourself, childhood wounds may be to blame. Seeing the ways that your inner child needs support can help you resolve these patterns as an adult. Pass
So,
my here. Here, you go. Your turn. Your turn.
um, Mark said Gene is really Superman. No, why didn't he get the role? And then he said, but even Superman had his weakness. We all have our version of kryptonite.
Kryptonite. We all have our.
All right. So where do I start with inner child work?
Where do
We
you start with
can't.
a child? Yeah. Yeah.
So we can't go back and change the past, and that's something that we really, really have to remember. What happened in the past is the past. We can't go back and change it, but we can loosen the grip the past had on us. And that's what we want to talk about. So, here's some ways that you can start the healing process. Listen to yourself. When you get upset, frustrated, or feel emotional pain, what kinds of things are happening around you? Who are you talking to? Paying attention to these triggers can help you connect them to childhood wounds. We talked about triggers a little bit ago, and we've talked about them definitely in the past on our shows. So, the other significant ways to listen to yourself, part of developing self awareness is practicing self care. This can be as simple as a journaling practice. Y'all got to get this journaling. Um, So it can be as simple as a journaling practice or more involved, like trying different types of therapy or revamping your bedtime routine.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, when our needs weren't met as a child, we hold on to those patterns as an adult. Taking care of your own needs can be a powerful act of self love. And if you weren't here at the beginning of the video, I shared um, some information about my past and um, what I did and what happened to me as a result of my needs not being met. So, Gene, you want to add something or go to the next part?
Now let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Meditation, and this is one of my favorite things to do. Meditate. Meditation has a lot of benefits, but one of the most powerful is that it teaches you to sit with difficult emotions. Learning how to be present with your feelings is the best way to develop emotional regulation skills and manage your stress levels. So with meditation, a lot of people get the mistaken uh, thought process that meditating is forgetting. You're in a meditative state and you're not thinking of anything. The actual goal of meditation is to deeper tune into your thought process. When you've blocked out everything else in the world to go into yourself and know yourself more deeply. So you get to hear all of those thoughts, all of those criticisms, and the goal is not to stop them, but to be aware of them, take note. So you're taking meditation is like taking, a mental journal of your thought process in that moment of meditation. When everything else is silent, you block the whole world out. And just being aware of that, like I said, it helps you to balance those emotions and not allow yourself to be taken over by them. It's easy to in everyday life to get swept up in waves of emotion. Um, but a constant practice of meditation allows you to take that type of breathing into your everyday life outside of you on that meditation pillow or on your meditation walk or whatever. It makes your daily life a meditation. Um, but I, man, when I was going through the stuff with you know who, it was yoga practice and meditation that helped me make it every day. Because there was times.
So, yeah, I want to add to what he just said. The So he learned through his situation how to deal with it in a positive way and how to help himself through it. So And he just said part of it. So the thing is to learn how to deal with situations. And so the only thing I can say about this is that I'm so glad that he learned how to deal with things. And even throughout during that time that he, was experiencing what he was experiencing, there were times when, as his mom, I wanted to talk to him about certain things and he wasn't ready. So he'd say, I gotta get on this yoga mat. So I'm saying that to say that he found a way to deal with it at that moment. And then, so I'm just saying the meditation and the yoga was so valuable to him. And he knew, well, I got to get this in order to get past this. I
Right.
got to do this in order to get past this. So I'm just sharing that with the audience so that y'all know we all got to do the same thing. And it's different things for different people.
Right.
So, meditation and being quiet, I say this all the time, and I have to laugh and giggle when I say it because it's so true. Sometimes we doggone talk too much and not listen enough. Stop
Agree with
transmitting so much. I gotta say what I gotta say. I gotta let this out and all that. Learn how to be quiet. Cállate la boca. For y'all that don't know, that means close your mouth in Spanish. So we gotta do it. And get quiet and meditate. Think about what we're thinking about. He just said it. So I just wanted to add to that. I mean that's so important.
you. Yep. Yep. Um, Again, going inside and this is I, I would be repeating myself, but just going inside and regulating your own feelings. Stop. We look too much outwardly for other people's approval. Um, we are. It's simple in the way that we're taught to live to point the finger, say it's your fault when that person who's pointing did something because of something else someone did. You know, well, it's your fault, but you did the action. Either way, you made a choice, and that's something that I just always stress. Utilize your ability to make a choice. Meditation, there's benefits. You're doing inner child work. You got to know yourself. In order to know yourself, you have to step back from all the external stimulation and distractions in order to tune into yourself. And that is a great way. And like I said, there's so many ways to do it. You can journal, is a meditation, walking, yoga, boxing, whatever. Just tune into self. Tune into self, go within, um, and dive deep. Because you only live once in this skin. This experience is once. So dive into why you are who you are. There's a beautiful destiny in there. There's a beautiful legacy. We just got to figure out what was I born to do. And by doing this inner work, you re you rediscover who you are through this healing work.
So I have to say this because it just reminded me of something that I did earlier today, and it goes along with this. I watched. I was a part of a training, a webinar training, a 2 hour webinar training earlier today, and he was sharing his story, and he works with Eric Thomas, or I should say Eric
Right,
Thomas works with him now, but he
right.
learned from Eric Thomas and so they work together now.
That's awesome.
Man, that webinar was so doggone powerful. But
Right,
he was sharing his story about things that happened to him and in this training. So something you just said made that spark. So how to be present. for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to be present for yourself and not, trying to be what other people want you to be.
Right.
A couple times in that webinar, this is the very first time. It was so powerful, but this is the very first time, a couple times in that webinar, tears,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, wow. I mean, I have never. So part of what he was talking about is he wanted to, he was thinking, I need to do this to, maybe I'm too much for these people, not just on that, but in some of his speaking engagements. So maybe I need to change and, calm down a little bit for them.
Right.
And he said the Lord spoke to him and said, why would you water yourself down
Right.
for people? And
Right.
so I'm like, wow, that was powerful because we are who we are. And when we try to become what somebody else want us to be, then we
Mm-hmm.
become miserable
Right.
people. And so you're not being present for yourself.
Right.
At that time, you're being present for somebody else, but in
Right.
a negative way.
Right.
Now we have to
Oh,
be present for people, but in a positive way. How can I help you? What can I do to help you? That's being present in a whole different way, and not, well, I gotta be nice, I can't be so excited because they can't take it, man. My attitude when he said that is, forget y'all, I didn't been there long enough, I'm not doing that no more. So y'all just ain't gonna be a part of what, my thought was, y'all just ain't gonna be a part of this audience, because I'm gonna be who I need to be, and I'm gonna be present for me, I'm gonna be alive for me. you know um anyway,
yep.
that webinar was so doggone powerful. I have never attended a training like that,
Yeah.
never ever.
That's awesome.
So, go ahead.
No,
um
no, I just said that that's awesome because Eric Thomas is definitely one of my absolute favorite motivational speakers out
yeah.
there right
And so let me add this, because I just looked at it again: emotional regulation. So in his story, he was telling how he learned to deal with his emotions too. And
now.
so, man, y'all, it's just so powerful. We have to learn how to deal with our emotions so we can be present for other people,
Right.
because
That's
it's
no
not
sir.
about us. That's what got me
Yeah.
set off, because you were saying about doing what we were created to be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
here for. And so that's what made me go through all of what I just said, because truly he knew his purpose, and and shared it, and became present for himself, because he experienced a whole lot of bad stuff, but
Yeah.
he overcame. And so what else can we share? Because you have a few words to say before we, because it's time to close. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
finish this next week.
Yeah. Man, just I've said this a million times, so forgive me if I've annoyed you with my redundancy today. But the most important thing to me, and you kind of tapped on it last in your last sentence, always be authentic with yourself. Like
Yep.
you were created to be a unique version of the infinite all, and you watering yourself down or trying to make yourself, fit into a cookie cutter. You a square trying to fit yourself in a, a circle trying to fit yourself in a square peg or vice versa. You are who you are for a reason.
Yep.
Tune in, tune into who you are. Always be authentic with yourself. Realize that we all got work to do. None of us are perfect. Give yourself grace, and therefore give others grace. Hey, Don, how you doing? Um,
Done, my girl. Go ahead.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
just always keep it a buck with yourself. Always be authentically you.
Yep.
The creator didn't create you to, like I said, to make yourself fit into someone else's idea or paradigm of who you should be. If we were all meant to be the same person, then we would not be made uniquely. Like literally, there's no one like you in this universe, in
Woo,
this world
that's
we live in.
powerful.
Not a one. You
Yep.
are the genuine article. So always be there. You were created to be there. So and shine. Straight
Yep.
out shine.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I'm not going to say any words. It's time to go. Peace. We send you peace. We send you love. Catch us next Sunday. Hey, y'all, love y'all. Needed this message. I'll try and come in. Thank you. You can always go back and watch the replay. Go to our YouTube channels, Love Misunderstood Institute or Premier Fitness 0210. I'm going to put it on my Facebook page as soon as we're done so you can go back and catch it. We really appreciate you attending. Thanks for your comments. We love you, girl.
Love you.
All right, y'all take care. Peace, love. See you next Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Take care. Bye for now.
Well,